So I'm going to be reading you this thing that a friend wrote. This is literally a friend wrote. When people say this kind of thing, sometimes people think it's like, oh, like a friend. Yeah, a friend. It's not just you. No, this actually isn't me. This is a friend of mine. He posted this, and it's about something that he and somebody he was dating used to talk about, and it led into something else. It's talking about libertarianism, and let's get into it. So as I said, this is from a friend of mine, and I've had some discussions. I was wondering why he was dating this certain person that he was dating at the time. He is a rather libertarian guy, individualist, and she was, as it said here, her worldview was a critical theory, intersectionality, and cultural Marxism, or whatever we want to call it, as he wrote it there. But that's her bent. She was rather progressive, and I guess. But the thing is, some of these people do actually interact and want to discuss and want to talk, and I appreciate that. I have separate videos, one of them talking about where somebody interacted with me in the comment section, and I appreciate you taking time to listen to this. Like, share, subscribe, hit me up in the comment section if you feel the need to, and even if it's just saying this is garbage and you shouldn't be talking about these things, you should just get the videos faster instead of talking about people being in the comment section. Anyway, into the actual thing. So, had a conversation with somebody who identified themselves as a scientific socialist. And we went into talking about anarcho-communism. And when I post these things, I post them on social media in different places. Normally, I'll get to a point where it's like, okay, I see if somebody comments on the original post, I interact with that first comment. If I see they've actually listened to the video and they're addressing something in the video, I'll go forward and discuss. But then it'll get to a point where I'm going to realize, okay, we're just preaching at each other, we're not communicating, and it's not that effective. And one thing I think is if you're actually getting into a sort of relationship that I actually think what a partnership in this male to female, adult, female to female, male to male, or whatever other kind of spectrum you want to be in that kind of situation, male, female, 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 whatever you have in these kind of things. The kind of relationship I'm looking for, I think there needs to be some sort of level of understanding, of appreciation, of communication on a socio-political scale. And I think this is something that is increasing in society. With this breakdown with the pandemic, this reset that's gotten people to rethink certain things and structures in society that have been involved in their life that they thought were not things that we're going to talk about anymore, or, oh, I can just put this on the wayside, especially in a place like United States of America. I think they take certain things for granted, the system that they have, the political system that they have, where it's like, oh yeah, it's things that are just going to keep going on without me having to participate that much. Maybe just once every 4 years, I'll kind of pay attention and I might vote. I'm not even going to register or not even going to understand what the state is or how the regulations and rules keep growing and growing. I'm not going to actually accept what taxation actually is inherently. And it is all these things that people just take for granted because so much else works. And now with this pause, after this actual disease has come out, this actual virus has come out, I think it has made people rethink what's going on. Seeing the reaction of some people who've gotten very religious and very fundamentalist with their beliefs and certain things that they've been doing socio-politically and getting into different places and inserting their ideologies and indoctrinating people into certain things and seeing how negative and how fragile, not the white fragility type of book, but how fragile some of these institutions people take for granted are. I think people will be more activated. And one thing I see from the political left that I kind of agree with is the whole thing where it's like identify somebody who is a Trump supporter or who is in the political right, who is a conservative, who is XYZ that they disagree with, and don't date these people. I am okay with that. I am okay with businesses saying, if you're conservative, we're not going to hire you. I'm okay with that kind of discrimination because I think the people who are more towards liberty, who are more towards hiring and getting into contracts, getting into relations based on the results of the things they're trying to do through that relationship, will be more successful. What is the point of a relationship, in my opinion, in a adult kind of relationship that I was talking about before? It's to eventually see if you're compatible, to live the rest of your life and support each other as a more powerful union versus just two separate beings or however many separate beings. And the ultimate reason these relationships were developed, whether it's nuclear families or all the other forms that we have available to us and will be created, is to reproduce. is to see. And with the friend that I know here, he is interested eventually into having kids. I don't think it's something he's against. I don't think the person he was dating is something against that. And if that is something valuable, I think there's certain worldviews that you have to have some kind of similarity, where if you're an anarcho-capitalist, libertarian-minded, Austrian economist type of person, you're not going to actually be able to actually start a family, in my opinion, with a critical theory, intersectional, cultural, Marxist feminist. I just don't really see that happening. Who's also religious, and you're also an atheist. There's just so many things where I was like, what is happening with this thing? So, but people need to make their cases. So that whole thing of saying we shouldn't date these certain people, I personally don't think I could date somebody like that. I hardly even am able to just maintain regular friendships with people just because I'm so open to some of these things that I say. The things that I make in these videos are the way I talk on a regular daily basis. Simple thing like, I am into peaceful parenting. If somebody's not into peaceful parenting, that's an automatic no when it comes to like there's other things. So there's things that kind of break apart. But now when it comes to actually getting to this point, and soon I'm going to actually get to the reading, he's talking about in this one. Let me just read the first section and then I'll get into the actual points that they make here. So, my ex used to repeatedly insist to me that libertarianism could only exist in an echo chamber. Not only did I strongly disagree with that when she said it, the more time passes, the more time I realize how much this applies to her worldview, critical theory, intersectionality, cultural Marxism, whatever you want to call it. And on top of that, this worldview appears to be only able to survive through government dictum and force, bullying by a mob, and funding via wealthy elites and agendas. Then he's going to go to a few points to back it up. And this is where I'm getting at. I think it is positive. When he broke up with her, I was glad. He told me some time after I heard the person posting about, oh, my exes, was like, finally you broke up with this person? Because literally, I'm the kind of guy that if somebody's my friend and I think they're messing up, I'm not just going to be quiet about it just because, oh, this is my friend, this is my girlfriend's friend, this is my this is my male friend's girlfriend, this is my female friend's boyfriend, this is my female friend's girlfriend, or wherever they want to be. So whatever. This is just my partner. So I'm just going to be, no, you're my friend to begin with. If you're bringing somebody else into this relationship that I have with you, I am going to have a say on that. On the inverse, if I bring somebody else into this relationship I have with you, then I expect you to give your input in that. Because in the future, we might have kids. I might think this is somebody that I've already vetted enough to be like, if this person was by themselves, I would allow them to look after my kid. But if this person has brought in this other wild card, why would I want that person around my kid? That person is suspect, and that person might somehow negatively affect this thing. I'm trying to build my tribe. I'm trying to build my in-group and have it to be as secure and stable and strong as possible. So with this whole idea, this is something that I'm trying to tell people. I think be more selective and be more open with the people you bring in your life. Value and understand your values, what you consider virtuous, and demand that from the people around you and be able to actually speak about it. When you look at what's happening in society right now, when I read through this thing, I was like, I think I have to read this out as a video because I'm glad that he's seeing this. I'm seeing other people seeing this. And the way he worded this, I've talked about this in separate videos in separate other locations about these things. We've had interactions with the friend, and we are both people who are optimistic about what the future actually has. I think it'll get I think it'll get worse. If you think it's bad now, I think what's happening now will deteriorate more. I think the battle that's being fought, this cultural civil war on the idea plane, mostly on the idea plane, will keep seeping out to more physical things, riots, statues being torn down, people being shot for saying all lives matter, actual violence, tensions and things like that, physical violence and tensions, those will go up. People voting in different kind of politicians that do these kind of laws that are extortionary, that are coercive and that limit freedoms. But eventually libertarianism, the case for libertarianism hasn't actually even been heard by even a fraction of people that would actually like it. I think most people would appreciate and value, especially in the United States of America, especially in the West, just human beings in general would value an actual understanding of what libertarianism is versus what some people seem to be thinking is actually popular. I don't think the current loud hysterical fundamentalist people on the political left progressive aspect are actually selling anything that people would actually buy if they understood what it is. Yet the character of libertarianism, of freedom, of liberty, and things like that that exists out there is not what it actually is. And I think people would embrace it if they realized what that actually was. So let's just get into the points. I'll just read the points and then I'll come back. I'll see. I might comment during the points or I might comment at the end. Let's just get into the reading. Okay, so we don't have a free market in college. Colleges need to have their curricula approved by the state, get government funding, the students get loans guaranteed by the government, etc. Except for a few colleges like Grove City, colleges aren't truly independent. This distorts the entire curriculum, incentive structure, and how staffing works. Now, some thoughts on this. I have I agree with them on this, as we've talked about this before. But I looked at the market. You look at the actual economy out there, and it is the state involvement, and the state has mutated the economy, has mutated things that we see. We look at something, oh, that's a free market thing. No, it's not. It has been mutated by the effect of the state, by the effect of taxation, by the effect of redistribution of wealth, setting false incentives and muddling things up. And it's messed up. We can do so much better as a human species, and I really think we will. I have a separate video talking about the actual history of the word capitalism, and then a different one, this paper Left and Right that was submitted to Left and Right about Rothbard, where he's written by Murray M. Rothbard, and he's talking about the definitions of actual progressive and liberal and then conservative, and how the old order is actually trying to control things, and the case for libertarianism actually needs to be made. People need to stop being so pessimistic and somewhat nihilistic about the actual chances of libertarianism, and it really encouraged me, and I hope you actually check that out and you get encouraged by listening to the rest of these points. Okay, back to the reading. Notice how more explicitly Marxian even lower education has become. Howard Zinn is taught as mainstream history, and the 1619 Project will be taught now. And notice the pushback against homeschooling from many. So that's one thing. 1619 Project is a project by the New York Times, somebody involved with the New York Times. I think it's in part with the staffs of the New York Times or some resources from something talking about how United States of America was actually established from 1619. And I've heard some rather good takes on this being an attempt to erase the importance of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and that actually being the founding of the United States of America, and saying no, it's actually founded on more oppression from the past, and it's a ridiculous thing. Just look up the 1619 Project, see if you agree with that material, see if you agree with that content. One of the things that I've been surprised about is just how openly people can just be avowedly communist in the United States of America, and I'm thinking. And I know there's this one meme where it's like, oh, communists in a capitalist, or I think communists in the capitalist meme. I don't know what the meme actually is. I'm forgetting it exactly, but it's something about showing how socialists or communists are in a more capitalist, democratic, liberal, libertarian type of environment. They're just happy. But then the capitalists, the more freedom-minded people under a communist regime, are not going to be treated as nicely. You're not going to be able to smile and talk about these things in public. So there is that aspect. You look at the 1619 Project, there are things that are actually showing that it's just bogus, the things that have been outright refuted. As I'm recording this, there is a rather well-known and well-respected New York Times columnist, Barry Weiss, just left. She just resigned, and she sent supposedly a scathing letter about how illiberal it has actually become in that place. There's a different Harper's Bazaar letter about some people who are rather on the political left coming out and talking out against cancel culture. Goya Beans, this Goya, a Spanish or Hispanic food company or something. One of the people came out and he was talking about that he's going to donate all this money to these food banks, and he praised Trump actually for something. And they were like, "Oh, we're going to cancel Goya Beans," and then the actual pushback of it ended up with the stocks actually shooting up and things like that. So there's a pushback. These people are realizing this thing is getting absurd. This thing is getting ridiculous. But in the United States of America, you don't have to take it down to the streets. You don't have to get your guns out there, even though you can have your guns and you can defend your home. And even sometimes the police might come in because there might be something like in that Missouri situation where the actual AD has some political issues to come, and then the cops come and they take your guns away. But you're still not just being dragged out in the streets like you are in certain places. You're still not being disappeared yet like you were in the Maoist Cultural Revolution in China. You're still not even as bad as a place like what's going on in Hong Kong. You have people now leaving Hong Kong because these nebulous new laws are coming in and all these issues. It's not that bad yet. And I don't even know it'll get that bad. And maybe some people are being quiet because they never think it'll get that bad. But I'm saying right now, speak up so it doesn't get that bad, because it can. I'm not saying it can't. It can. So let's do something. But look at these things and get some pushback, and let me get back to the points and get excited that these things are there. Despite them having all this influence and all this time, there is ways to counter this, and this actually cannot last in and of itself. Okay, the mainstream media is dying, except for Fox, where Hannity and Tucker Carlson are breaking records. The New York Times is only still around because Carlos Slim bailed them out, and Washington Post gets money from Jeff Bezos, who has still come under fire lately anyway. This one, Jeff Bezos, I think they did something. They carried a guillotine. Is it guillotine? Guillotine to his actual house. I think they found his house and carried something like that out there. So he's still getting gruff. And I've also talked about a separate video how like people on both sides of the aisle, like, oh, wealthy people are not good. And on the left, they say this, wealthy people or oligarchs are taking this. But then when it's like Bill Gates, when it's Jeff Bezos, when it's Carlos Slim putting in all this money and influence into things that they appreciate, they're kind of like, yeah, look at these people saying these things that we like. Okay, so back to reading the points. George Soros recently announced he would donate $220 million to, quote, achieve racial equality, end quote. People can't claim that these groups being funded by him is, quote, conspiracy theory, unquote, anymore. Courtesy of Project Veritas, he, along with Tom Steyer, were recently shown to fund groups like Refuse Fascism. So this one, as I've mentioned, in many of these cases, there is a lot of money behind these people doing what they're doing. Most of the people involved in these projects, I think, are doing it out of the kindness. I don't think people intentionally try to be wrong. I don't think people intentionally go around try to hurt people. People rationalize what they're doing is positive. Even someone like George Soros, I truly think he thinks he is doing things that will lead to a better world, primarily for him, his family members, his clan, his tribe around there, and other things that he's interested in. He doesn't care about you directly. He probably doesn't care. I'm sure he doesn't care about me directly. I'm sure Donald Trump doesn't care about me directly. I don't expect politicians to care about me directly. I appreciate the people who get to know me, like this friend of mine who I'm reading this list from, that actually get to know who I am, value who I am, and then despite all the other things they could care about and things they could dislike about me, choose to care about me. And then I return that to them like, I care that you care about me. I care that we care about caring about each other. We're just this Care Bear type hug type of thing. So it's that kind of squad kind of thing. But in general, part of me doing this video is because I think talking about these kind of content, pushing out this message will make the world better for me personally, make me feel better, even if one person listens to this and is like, wow, that's a good message. Even if one person listens to this and gets heartened and is like, yeah, let me continue this up. That is positive. Even if just my friend, just already by me telling my friend I'm going to read this as an actual thing, and then he listens to this and he was like, oh, good idea. And he gets it out and he feels like, yeah, boosted. That's cool that you put that out there. That is already a positive for me. That's already good for me. But the increased actual positives of the rest of the world, I also think exist. So I'm doing this in my own way. George Soros is doing it, except he has billions of dollars to invest in these things. A lot of people are doing it. Corporations are backing certain things. Bill de Blasio cares about Black Lives Matter in his own way, in his own Marxist, cultural Marxist, weird type of way that he can actually shut down all kinds of gatherings except the things that he cares for. Because he also married a black woman. That they call their kid black. So those people are into that. He's somehow supportive of that in his own way. I don't think he's out there seriously thinking, by doing this, I'm going to destroy the world. I am Bill de Blasio. I'm now going to be like Dr. Doom. And no, even Dr. Doom in the comic books. I think there was something I read from Diversity in Comics or your boy Zach or Comics Matter. That's what his name's channel is now. And he was talking about this really good Dr. Doom comic No, it wasn't Doctor Doom comic. It was somebody who had a story, I think. Okay, it's another side, but I think this is a good video. I like the way this is going. Kind of ran through the different things, talking about different topics. What he was talking about, this is another thing that is positive thing. It's showing like in the comic book industry, it's now changing. It's morphing. It's been morphing and changing already before this pandemic and break and shutdown, because those things were not working. That was also a mutated environment in and of itself. But anyway, so you have that situation where that changes, and now there's different people, creatives. Somebody who had a story. It was this character named America Chavez. Is the copyright was to Marvel, and then the people who were actually doing the Marvel thing, they kept it, and then these people who originated the idea of the character, they left Marvel, and they're like, okay, we have this story with America Chavez, with her kind of original type of character, and we want to do this story with her and bring her back in this separate universe. And they did that, and they were allowed to do that. Marvel was like, okay, whatever, you can do it. We're not going to sue you for this and DMCA you. So we're going to do that. You can do that. And with this story, she was more. The storyline had her going to a place that is equivalent of Latveria with Doctor Doom in the Marvel Universe, where Doctor Doom is supposedly this despotic ruler of this country where he's oppressing people. But she goes there and she's like, yeah, we're going to like save these people with his Avengers team and this America Chavez character. And then Doctor Doom's like, the Doctor Doom equivalent is like, no, Latveria has the highest quality of life in Europe. Like, my people like me. Like, you might think I'm oppressing them, but this country has access to healthcare. People are educated. People are doing well. Like, you're the actual terrorist here. You're the actual one who is the villain here. You need to leave. And in argumentation, they actually left. So this is the thing. We need to stand up and be like, look, we make the case for the things we believe in as well. If you believe the things I believe in, and they're already trying to make the case for the things they believe in. And I think some of them have frustration and they don't have the words because there's also no evidence for some of the things that they believe in. So they resort to violence and tantrums. But you can counter that with words. You still can. Okay. Yeah, even, like I'm saying, the billions that go in from all these people, the Washington Post, all those things, it's still not going to prop these things up because there actually is no substance to a lot of these things that people are saying. But I think there is substance. There is a case to be made for liberty out there. Okay, next point. Go woke, go broke is real. Look at the movies and the stories pushing social justice themes. They tank. Since ESPN went woke, the ratings have been the lowest in their entire history. And Charles Barkley, who generally isn't that political, even made a statement about this recently. Charles Barkley is a gift to sports entertainment. You need to watch. I'm going to try to leave a link either below or somewhere, or just check on YouTube, Charles Barkley and San Antonio women. It's this clips of him talking about churros and big old women in San Antonio. It's hilarious. And Charles Barkley is awesome. So there's that. But ESPN has continued to just do some really inane things. A recent thing was look at the coverage that they had about Deshaun Jackson talking about the Jews, and versus what they have talking about other things, signing Colin Kaepernick for something. And I was talking about in a separate video a long time, years ago, I think. It was like in 2018, saying like ESPN should hire Colin Kaepernick. And they finally did, and giving him millions of dollars. And you have these companies backing and bankrolling these people. And NBA is like, yeah, you can write these statements on the back of your shirt. You can't write Free Hong Kong, though. So it's a weird kind of situation that the people are starting to notice and take note of, and I think there's a reckoning to be had. Okay, next. Notice when they call to boycott businesses like Chick-fil-A and Goya, sales actually go up. Chick-fil-A got a boost after it was in the press, and Goya stuff has been wiped out lately. He's talking about wiped out. There's actually an image I've seen of some shop somewhere where it's talking about, you have to have limited amounts of you taking this, because the pushback to the early cancel culture, some of these cancel culture things started earlier. I remember the Kellogg's, it was in time back, I think it was back in 2017, I was still reading Breitbart a lot. There was a time when the Kellogg's were, it was actually knocking down people's stocks. And then you have situations where these people have been hired, and I think he talks about this in the next one somewhere here. Yeah, he talks about this in the next one, and I think I'll get to that when I get to that point. But right now there is a pushback. People are saying, oh, you're going to come at this company? Instead of me actually just being a quiet minority, I'm going to actually somehow go out and support this company by buying their stuff, by actually knocking their stocks up. So that is a positive. So there's many ways to do it besides just being a silent majority or just posting things on YouTube or just sharing my video or having actual debates and confrontations with people. There's other ways to do it because, as I mentioned, people get shot for saying all lives matter. So I understand there's actual threats there that are there to be concerned about. Okay, notice the shutting down that has been occurring for years of alternative creators and content via social media and YouTube. Why silence all these opposing voices unless they were truly a threat? And that is true. I have been posting some videos. I have a small YouTube channel. I don't really have that much reach, but I already noticed some comments being taken out. I think recently, if I'm not mistaken, this is the second time this happened, my own pinned comment on a video was deleted and removed. And with some of these, I will still see the comment come through on my Gmail, on my actual account connected to my YouTube page, but the thing will actually be deleted from the actual page. It will never actually show up. It won't be in spam. It won't be held for review. It'll just be wiped out. So that is already suspect. And then, of course, there's bigger channels, Stefan Molyneux for one, that was just deleted, removed. Someone like Tim Pool is talking about he's been hearing rumblings that he might get taken out. So I'm personally looking for other sources to be able to do this. The same way YouTube and these things came to be, because people weren't happy with just being limited to what was being produced on television, on radio. So they found these new things and found these new sources. I think this will continue. The liberty message is something that people want. These alternative views and ideas are things people want. People don't want just this packaged things. So we continue doing that. We find other sources to do that. If you like, share, subscribe, and you keep in contact with this channel, I will introduce and find other ways to talk to you about how I'm spreading out and trying to get a more independent location to actually be getting my stuff out, and then use whatever other platforms like YouTube and other places that help me reach out to more people. Okay. Oh, what's next? Cancel culture and all the doxing threats. Need I say more? And I think I mentioned that already before, so I shall not say more either. Human resources at many companies tends to be staffed by leftist bullies who won't hire people if they look up their social media and find incorrect views. In other words, let's punish people professionally for not conforming to our ideology. And this is something that I mentioned before when I was talking about this video with Cowardice in Magaland, that people were talking about, yeah, I actually have my job at risk. I have to put food on the table, money in the bank, I got money in the bank. Shorty, what you think? There was something else with that song that I was thinking. I forget what it was. The reason I think it was like, oh, KKK. Somebody's talking about something with KKK, and it's like in that song, they're like, oh, KKK. And like, anyway, so coming back to this thing, with the whole situation, people actually get fired for these things. I think part of why there was such an effect with this cancel culture is these people who have come up and been indoctrinated through these systems and gone out there have actually been hired and are in HR departments and are doing this and are telling the older people who are not as clued into actual social media and the current trends that actually run the company and make some of these decisions. They're being told by these younger whippersnappers that are cool and hip and tied in, oh yeah, you have to do this social justice thing. You have to send this Black Lives Matter support thing. Oh, look, don't you see Mayor de Blasio is painting this in the street? Of course this is something the young kids want, and this is how you're going to market to the people. But eventually, they're going to play this out and see that it's not going to work anymore. Post-corona, you're not going to have all this excess wealth to just virtue signal with. It's going to go back to more merit-based things. The cathedral is already actually being attacked. I shall talk about this in a separate video, I think, but let me mention it here. I just saw this thing, and I've noticed that Donald Trump has been continuing. Him and I think his daughter Ivanka is actually spearheading this actual thing with reforming of education, and that's going to attack the cathedral. That's going to attack the indoctrination base. That's going to be the death knell for the cathedral. Meanwhile, the people on the political left are just like, policing needs to be refunded. We need to rethink policing. We're going to send out these talking points. That's really a non-starter because the places that are actually safe are currently not safe because they don't have well-funded police. There's safety in those locations for various reasons: private security, the different kind of mindsets of the people there, families and kind of ways, the way kids are raised. There's many reasons certain places are more safe than other places. But normally, having less police, less well-funded police is not one of them. Another thing with this funny thing is, I think I might put this meme up on the screen, where they're talking about, to fix policing, we have to defund them. Bad schools, you have to throw more money at them. That's not how these things are going to work. And you keep the schools closed. You keep saying, we need more money for schools. You can't open schools this coronavirus. You keep the kids away from the actual schools. Parents still want their kids to be educated. and they will find other ways to educate those kids. So do this at your own detriment. I double dare you. I want Trump to keep pushing to open the schools because these people just have a jerk reaction to Orange Man bad that will result in them keeping the schools closed. You go to remote schooling and it's done. Your indoctrination shall not work anywhere close to as effectively. 50% drop in effectiveness of indoctrination the second you do that remotely. Other people will find better ways to get educated, get the actual information. There are better human information vectors out there than the schooling system. And they will acquire ignorance destruction systems. I think that's the thing. Acquired ignorance destruction systems. That's the video I talked about before. That's an idea that I'm trying to push out there, and that is a thing that's actually going to happen, and I'm glad for that. Let's keep it going. From what I've observed and who I talk to, there is a general resistance and grumbling regarding diversity and inclusion training and such. Except for a tiny handful of people who will do things like pay the $12K to attend one of Robin DiAngelo's seminars, there isn't some outcry for the stuff. Robin DiAngelo is somebody who currently has a popular book called White Fragility that I've heard is just the bee's knees of absurdity, and I shall not get into that much more. But yeah, I think this whole woke culture is a minority of people who are in certain bubbles, in certain cities, in certain locations, that are not indicative of what the general public is actually for. It's sure as hell not indicative of what the general public outside the United States of America and a few other Western countries are actually about. Like, that stuff just, people, like, I do see some people kind of buying into some of the basic things here in Kenya, but I talk to them about the actual, do you know the details of the things that are going on in this? Have you actually read the Black Lives Matter website? No one that I know who supports it here in Kenya has actually read it and actually believes some of this stuff. Once you actually start doing like Marxism, like people are like, no, wait a minute. Think Marxism and outright Marxism and the anti-family type of stuff is going to fly in somewhere like Kenya? No. Anyway, back to the reading. Jonathan Haidt did a study where he asked people of various viewpoints to explain their opponents' positions. He found that conservatives and libertarians could explain leftist positions pretty well, but the reverse wasn't the case at all. It's anecdotal, but I've seen this countless times, and many others have said the same. And there are people who have spent years and even lifetimes in academia and have never read or even heard of many conservative and libertarian thinkers. And that's why, for me, one of my favorite series is just reading this stuff about from Rothbard and other people. And I think I'll get more into just those edible information in audible form of just reading these things that are just inspirational to me. And just, I think it goes more than just my bias, where I'd already started thinking about certain of these things to really confirm some of the thoughts that I have. But these are such new ideas. The concept of freedom of speech being enshrined in a way a country is, or area is governed, a civilization, a society is built, is such a brand new thing. The idea that people feel the expectation that they should be allowed to say anything. Now, I don't think people should rely on not having any actual consequence for saying anything, but the fact that it's based on initially granting everyone the ability to say anything as an enshrined right that the society and culture defends and tries to grant all the people involved in that place. That's just the inverse. This is one thing I've said about friends. Your groups of friends, what I've noticed, collections, in-groups, are mostly defined not about the truths they tell, but about the lies they tell each other. Because the truth is just the truth. I don't need to understand and realize this group of people see the truth this way, because it's just the truth. I just tell you what I see, what actually is. But the groups, these in-groups, are defined by, we're not going to talk about this God in a certain way. We're not going to raise this question about, how did this God again impregnate a 16-year, or how old was that virgin supposedly that was impregnated by who, and then that God drowned? We're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about the good things, the positive things about this being. That person did what to who? Well, they're in our in-group, so we're not going to actually talk about the truth. We're not going to talk about that to the security forces, because we're going to protect this person from this. Oh, I am the queen of this country, and my son did what to what children? Oh my God. But I have to protect my country. I have to protect this long history. So I'm going to find ways to have that person who my son did these things with somehow disappear from their cell in this other country that left our empire sometime back that I might still be a little bit salty about with this kind of thing. So these kind of things where it's the lies that people tell that normally build the relationships. I like building my relationships on truths and just being encouraged and rewarded and amazed by just the acceptance of reality and awareness of the things that actually are. That's what I think will be a better world for most people. And so anyway, what I'm saying, the actual libertarian, for what it actually is, problems occur not because of what X is, because of how we define X. People seem to be rejecting libertarianism, freedom, and some of these things, some of these ideas, because they define it as something else. They don't know what the actual thing is. Because if you actually define to them what the thing is and the results of that thing being the increase in human flourishing, people want that. So it's about trying to communicate that to other people, which I think is a positive thing. To me, it's a plus. I see this as a complete win when I hear that most people don't understand what the liberty message is, because it would be worse if they actually understood and still rejected it, and I don't think that would be the case. So we got 2 more points and then we're going to be done with this. There are those studies showing leftists are far more likely to unfriend people, both in person and real life, than their opponents over political views. My own experience has borne this out. So I don't know who broke up with who in their relationship, but I was telling him, like, I was like, why are you dating this person? Like, what's going on? I saw she was somewhat attractive. I'm like, are you? But I don't think that was the main thing. And at least he told me that, yes, we actually talk about these topics. And I think that was a positive thing. And for me, as long as someone is willing to engage in that kind of sense, I normally go on with that thing. And that's a positive thing. So maybe he was getting some benefit out of engaging, and there was a chance that she might switch on something, or he might switch on something, or I don't know what it was. But the whole unfriending thing, that has been, the unfriending thing had began before cancel culture. Now cancel culture is just that unfriending thing writ large onto society, collectivized. It's just brought to a more collective level, unpersoning, unchanging somebody. This is something that religions do. You leave a certain faith, oh, you can no longer be dealt with this faith. You're going to go to hell. You're going to go to purgatory. You're in the outside of the in-group. That is a common thing that does occur. And it's unfortunate, but in my experience, after I had my break, my look into the abyss and then smiling and realizing everything was as it should be, utter chaos, I came out of that. I started speaking out more, being more true to myself. And I realized some of the people that I thought were friends weren't really friends because they didn't really know me. I didn't really know me enough. I was projecting to them who I thought they wanted me to be, and that wasn't really who I was. So some of the people, the relationships broke apart. Some of them got stronger. Some of them, things that I didn't really think had relationships, were built up. And now I feel the ones that I have now are more true and more strong because those are based on actual substantial things. Okay, the last point. Check the like to dislike ratio on many videos recently being pushed on this content. And also realize how many shut off comments. This proves again that there isn't some massive outcry for this stuff. I'm sure there's more, but this is what I could come up with. As insane as this bullshit is, I do believe that the silent majority and the backlash has already begun. So that's it, and I agree with that last statement. I think it's already begun. I know for me, listening to other people when back in 2015, when there was hardly that many voices talking about this, and it was like Stefan Molyneux, a few other people that we're seeing. There were certain communities I was in the MGTOW community, I'd been in the gaming community, and seeing some of the crazy activities that were happening in more fringe communities like the feminist movement, getting involved in these other niche communities and bringing in these progressive type of cancel culture, or this person doesn't think like we should. We need to come together and talk to this person and dox this person and get the thing. This gaming guy gets fired from this place, or this guy is a MGTOW. He's written this thing about women in his page. Let's find this person, and you find his channel has been shut down. His identity has been put online. Someone says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I had to shut down my channel because I had these 5,000 people, I had these regular people that were listening to me that would feel to be getting some help, but I made this video and I said this thing, and now they've talked to my work, and then now I'm out of a job." I was seeing that, but these were essentially little nothings that people were like, who are these people? Why do we care about these people? So I saw that, and I saw that develop, and it inspired me to the point where I'm like, no matter where I am in my life, I feel this is something worth talking about. These are things that are going on. And then seeing it grow, seeing Trump come out and get the same kind of treatment that I saw these smaller people, these lesser people, these less known people getting, and then seeing that go writ large onto society and seeing people take sides, and then just seeing the current behavior now. And as he mentioned, I've been looking at the pushback. think about the amount of messaging for these things, for these progressive, for these leftist type of religious faith-based things that were going on, that have been going on for how many years, for the indoctrination in the system and all those things. How strong was that in the past? How much did people trust and not realize that there was bias in media? How much do people actually think that, yes, if they tell me X is X, it's going to be X because they've done the research. It's not just anonymous sources. It's not just Y because Z is doing it, but then now that A does it, all of a sudden we need to do B. Like, it doesn't change. People have expected and taken for granted way too much about society, that way too much is rational when it actually isn't. There's lots of irrational things out there. Lots of people who are doing things for not for your best reasons. A lot of people who are expecting people to be doing things for what they say they're doing it rather than what they actually are doing it. That's the whole problems exist not because of what X is, because of how we define X. So people are getting a better idea of how to define X or how to see X for themselves and get to the understanding of what X is and share that X with other people so those people are no longer ignorant about what X is. I think that's it for now. I really appreciate you taking your time to actually listen to this. I've been doing a lot more shorter videos, I think, of late. It was nice to get this kind of rant, talking, reading. I have a lot more content set up. Hope to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Thanks to my friend for letting me post this. I'm sure you'll listen to this and I think you'll enjoy that I wrote this. I think he'll probably agree with most of the things that I've said in this bit. I'm glad that he posted. I'm really glad that he's been a lot more active in posting and talking about things from how he was when I first met him. And he's seen some of these things. And I think he's also been as encouraged as I have been that the case for liberty is going to be made and it will be a better future for humans, one and all, whether they know it or not. Okay, till next time, goodbye.